I wanted to put a video out here of my filing jig and explain how it came to be and basically what it's for and how it works. I got the idea off of several videos on YouTube on putting something together for doing grinds on knives, full grinds, partial grinds, or just being able to keep your grind consistent all the way across the blade. Flat piece of MDF, rectangular is the best way to go, so you need it longer than you need it wide. I've measured down the middle and then drilled holes every inch on down. You don't have to have this many if you don't want them. Typically I'm back here using these only. And then also have a series of holes in the front here. That's where the spine of the knife is going to rest to keep it pushing back. I'll show you some of the parts here. Basically, I don't know what you would call this. It's basically like a long nut that you put two pieces of all thread in and you screw it and it pulls like a fence together. I put it on a bolt and in my drill and then on the sander and took all the edges off to make it like a bearing on here. That will screw down in. Leaving enough room to let it rise a little bit because I'm going to want the edge of my knife under there. Basically, any kind of bolt will work behind it to stop the knife itself for the handle's going to rest. So get those screwed down in. Two series of holes here, depending on your knife thickness. My knives are typically fairly small as far as height-wise. I have holes back here if I had something thicker that I needed to go ahead and let rest back. But basically your knife is going to slide in here and it sits against these bolts and that's what holds it in place nice and flat. You'll have to work with your file and obviously a clamp here to clamp it down, but your file will set your initial plunge line on this. I'm not going to file on this knife because it has been baked and I don't want to mess it up, but got a rod, filing rod here. It goes in your eyelet, which is screwed up and down. You put the file against this and you can drop it down in, and depending on where that's at, you can then move your knife forward and backwards as much as you need to make sure you're hitting in the same spot after you've started the knife every time, and that rests against that bearing. From there it's pretty simple. When you got a blank piece of stock, you'll have marked the center line, and then you'll start coming in here and filing up until you start working towards that center line, working all the way down. Might work on making a video actually showing the filing system on how to get up, but pretty simple from there. Once you've filed up so far, you start getting towards your middle line. All you have to do is keep screwing this down in. Drops it down, which will raise your file line. Keep working down. Typically I color the blade with a Sharpie in here. That way as I start working towards the edge again, the Sharpie disappears and I know when I've got back towards my middle. You can take it all the way to a full grind at the edge, or in this case, like on this knife, I've stopped somewhere in here where it gets flat again. I didn't go all the way up, but sanded that away. This is my design. Like I say, it works for me. You might not think it works for you, but it gives you an idea of where to start to get a jig together. Definitely a lot easier than holding it against the belt of a sander and trying to do it just by hand. The other one we have here, my buddy that makes knives with me, who's my handy cameraman here, he took my jig and modified it to make it to where it works for him. He's got, instead of a eye bolt to screw up and down, he actually has some, I believe they're curtain rod holders that he's wallered out big enough to slide a piece of black pipe that he's flattened out, drilled a hole for the rest for his rod to rest in off the file, but then he's got it marked for different preset angles where you can drop this collar down and then lock it on. Advantage to his is this thing does this a lot easier than mine, so it follows the rod as you're going left and right. But he has two different options. He can go in either one of these if he wants to go even higher on a grind or shallower. He also solved the riddle here in the front. My MDF is going to wear out eventually on the threads. He's taken a piece of aluminum flat bar, drilled and then tap those so that he can screw everything in, and he's never going to get worn out on losing his threads in MDF like I will. So these are our 2 filing jigs. It only took us 2 winters now of making knives to figure out that there had to be an easier way to do what we were doing, and so far they're working out pretty good. So leave some comments, let us know what you think. Thanks.